What is going on, y'all? Thank y'all so much for being here. This is So I Did a Thing, where we have cool conversations with cool people who are doing cool things. My name is Chris Hennessy. I am your host, and we are live for the second week in a row, and it actually looks like it's working on Facebook too. I'm pretty excited about that. In case y'all don't know me, I've been live streaming now for about 3 years. I have two different shows, this one and another one called Ending the Stigma, where we talk about anything justice related or addiction related and coming out of that and the stigmas associated with it and just feel good stories and all kinds of stuff. And I kind of rotate back and forth between this show and that one, usually quarterly, sometimes 6 months at a time, just whatever I feel like doing. And I am also a live stream producer and moving into doing some social media management too, where we take the core of it is your live stream once a week. And then from that, we take, that was a weird noise in my ear. Boy, let me just go ahead and take Facebook off because that was like some kind of weird notification that threw me all the way off. Anyway, the core of it is we take your live stream and chop it up and cross post it amongst multiple platforms, just kind of flooding the social media ecosystem with your awesomeness. So looking forward to kind of implementing that. I've been saying it for a few weeks now, but I'm still getting all the details nailed down with that and before I launch it fully. But anyway, my guest tonight, y'all all know him, y'all all love him. He was supposed to be on the second episode, but we had some really, really bad ice here. And y'all have heard me talk about it before. I do all my streaming and stuff from work because I live in the country and all I have is a hotspot that isn't sketchy at best. And I didn't want to drive home in the dark whenever the ice was like, it was really the roads were white all the way. All right, Diana Parker. That's a blast from the past right there. She and I we weren't really friends growing up, but like we were kind of around in the same circles when we were teenagers. So I've known her for a long time. Anyway, so he was originally scheduled for like later in March, but my guess it was supposed to be tonight canceled. So I messaged him and was like, hey man, you want to move it up a little bit? And he was very happy to do it. And so I'm going to bring out James Jim Laurain.
Hey.
Hey man, what's going on?
What an amazing intro. I'm forever James Jim or Jim James, apparently.
I know. Yeah, because nobody knows.
Nobody knows. That's okay. I don't either. It actually ties into the whole theme of fatherhood as well. Because I'm Jim number 3 of 4. So whether I'm Jim or James depends on. Yeah. So whether I'm Jim or James, like it depends on who else is in the room, because at any given time, my grandpa passed away last October. At any given time, there could have been 4 Jims, like in the immediate family in the same room, which drove my family nuts. But I'm like, it's a benefit because you're like, hey, Jim, get me a glass of water. Boom, you get 4 glasses of water. So, I mean,
right. Either that or you get 4 people ignoring you because they think the other one's going to do it.
No, that's usually what happened. We're like, nah, just talking to you.
Yeah, right. Hey, Shannon Nelson, how are you? Hadn't seen you in a while. Let me say hi to a few people here because I haven't done that because I was running my head. Shannon Nelson, there's Kelly Steinica. Randy House is here. He was here early. I said hi to Diana. Thanks for dropping in. I appreciate it. Oh, hey, look, you made it. Woo! There's James Jim.
All right, hold on. We got a debate on this because I see. Do you ever like read people's names really quickly? Like when they comment on LinkedIn, you read it really quickly, but you never actually think about how to say their name. So you said Kelly Steinica, and I totally thought it was a Steinecke.
Oh, so, it's Steinica. Yeah, and I
totally wrong.
Asked her. Yeah, totally wrong. She was on the show a couple weeks ago, and I had to ask her. Like, we're friends. I've known her, but I was just like, all right, tell me again, one more time, how to pronounce your name because I don't want to butcher it on air.
That's the worst part of like podcasting. Is you're like, okay, man, your name looks so obvious, but you have to tell me how to say it. It's Randy Husa.
Right. So I tell this story a lot whenever I like talk about live streaming and mispronouncing names, but I had Kirsten Granados on the show a couple years ago, and through the whole show, man, I called her Kirsten. Oh, and after the show, she was like, hey, it's Keersten, like that's the pronunciation. And I was like, you literally let me talk to you for an hour, just like straight up mispronouncing it. So I always ask my guests if there's any about it.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce your name? Please tell me.
Oh, yeah. Good advice. Sage wisdom.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So tell us, man, like, whenever I first got on LinkedIn, you were the tech copywriter and you were spitting out gross facts every day. And that was like my coffee reading in the morning. I'd wake up, I'd open LinkedIn and I'd read some gross stuff from James, drink my coffee, and it was all good. You've kind of moved out of that. You've moved into a different role. Are you still doing the tech copywriting?
I have a couple clients that I do things for, but it's scaled down a lot, kind of by design. Yeah, I had some really good years, but what good years meant is work all day, work all night. So I'm like, I'm kind of getting tired of that.
Right. So you've kind of moved into AMP, doing stuff for them, but then you launched this full contact father support group and podcast, and you're a dad of 5.
Yep.
Okay. So just tell us like what spawned that? What was the inspiration for that? Like, how did that start?
Yeah, and we can go deep if you want to go deep.
Yeah, let's go deep.
I know you're a believer yourself, so
yes, sir. Let's do it.
I thought this was interesting for me, like this whole path to fatherhood. I had an awesome dad, like, and I'm not saying that because he's listening, because he's honestly probably not listening. But my dad is awesome. But my parents were divorced, so I didn't see him. I saw him every other weekend, one night a week. I didn't get to see him a lot. Compared to as much time as I had with my mom. And she remarried. I have a stepdad. He's wonderful. But either way, that connection was solid. I actually grew up Catholic. And then I met a girl in high school, and she brought me to a Protestant church. And why that matters is because at the Protestant church was the first time I saw a pastor who was a father. And so he made the connection of like, God the Father, this is what that means. And he would often like give sermons and talk about him with his kid, And I remember one, like it was yesterday, he was talking about, he had his kid on his shoulders in the pool, he was in the shallow end, and he walked him to the deep end and his kid was freaking out, like getting very uneasy. And he's like, no matter how deep this water is, until it's over my head, no matter how deep this water is, I got you. To me, the water depth means nothing because you're safe. I got you. And he drew a parallel between that and God. And I'm like, it was the first time that I understood certain things like, if there's a good God, why is there evil in the world? Like all this stuff, all of it became really, really clear to me when I understood the relationship with the father, because I had a good, strong father. So, I mean, fast forward, I didn't want any kids. My wife wanted a big family, and then, kids are kind of infectious. You have one, and then all of a sudden you want a million. For some people, maybe not, but for me, that was the case.
Yeah.
But then like fatherhood type issues have always been kind of important to me and in my mind, because it's something that, it's funny, like I always felt like I had to apologize for like either the number of kids I had or the way that we lived or the way, all this stuff. And then I've kind of started to flip. And then you see societally, like, not only are there not a ton of groups and support and accessible things for guys, also half the stuff out there is trash. And then I've also seen, like, in my own life, some of the bad habits that I have. like affect my family. And I'm like, wow, you get to see like the power you have as a dad. One of the podcast episodes, I interviewed a guy who said, you are the biggest, loudest, strongest thing in your house. I'm like, dang, he's right. You know, so like if a dad has a bad day, or if a dad is in a funky mood, or if a dad isn't being like assertive in a good way, like you can destroy the whole household. You know what I mean? Like you destroy you kill the vibe. But I mean,
straight up, yeah.
So it was
for the rest of the night. Like it's just going to be miserable.
Yeah. And so the last thing I'll say is so my wife, when she's pregnant, gets like hyper sick, like crazy sick, like ER sick, IVs, fluids, just horrible. It's called HG if you want to look it up. Not pleasant. And I went on a forum and I found like Mother Goose forum. I don't know. I was looking for like, how do you survive? How do you make it through a first trimester? And I didn't even have any other kids at this point, but it was just depressing. Like, I'm dealing with this person. She's sick constantly. I feel bad for the people whose wives are going through cancer and stuff, because it's the same thing, but different, not the same hope that you have at the end. Right. But the Mother Goose forum advice, somebody said literally like alcohol and masturbation is how I made it through first try. But like that's the advice and stuff that's out there, like it's great. It's so stupid. But it's yeah, that's exactly what it is. Diana, you got it. So anyway, it's so I wanted to create something. I wanted to support. My heart goes out especially for single fathers, because I've seen how rough I don't know what I'd do without my wife. It's stupid things. Like I didn't realize when you brush a little girl's hair, you're supposed to start at the bottom. Like all the women listening right now are like laughing, but all the guys are like, what? Because you brush your hair, you start at the top, and then you like rip half their hair out. Like there's so much like little nuance in like raising girls.
And I'm the oldest of 7, and I didn't even know that.
Yeah, well, you got to start your beard at the bottom and then work your way up, right? You don't start at the top. No, but there's so much, like, I don't understand how, my heart goes out, like I said, and especially when, girls start to go through puberty and things like that, like to be a single father, I can't imagine. Yeah. So I've already talked to a bunch of guys. I'm storing up the podcast. I have a guy who's helping me with the website. It's not quite done yet, but I'm waiting for that so I can do the podcast and the blog. But I've interviewed guys who have lost their wives, who have lost children, who had like really, really serious, deep stuff. Yeah. And it's just been so positive to me to see, even in the Slack group, which, by the way, anyone who's listening, just email me. If you're a father, email me your email and I'll put you right in the Slack group. But seeing like people are talking about like deep stuff, and it's we're not shying away from it. And the other response, I've had people reach out who offered to make things like preparedness kits for single fathers who have daughters who are going through puberty. We're like, we'll give you a box with like an instruction booklet and all the tools and equipment. Yeah. So like and have their daughter call me if they're having any issue. Like that's awesome.
And that's a real thing, man. Because like dads, my mom was a midwife, so like I was forced to listen to some of this stuff, but like none of it bothers me now. Like a girl could be like talking about whatever, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. But that's because mom was a midwife, and she literally like, oh, isn't this cool? Look at this.
Yeah, I've caught our last 3, so we did home births for the last few, and like I've like, nice. So it is funny because I have more experience than like the average guy. Yeah. When it comes to all this stuff. By the way, I can't see who it is, but somebody said conditioner an inch from a scalp. That was a mistake I made the first time. Is I thought like shampoo, you put it everywhere. So conditioner, you put it everywhere. Totally wrong. Because then you have to rinse their hair for like 20 minutes to get it out. Only conditioner in the bottom. It's the only place you need it. And then you're good. But again, like I had my wife teach me this. And I wanted to say really quick to Brian with a Y, drop me your email and you'll be in there, man. So we have other single dads, and they say the number one thing I hear from single dads is they're lonely. I know it's an awkward thing. Me, not a single dad, I feel awkward like inviting single dads over for dinner, because it's like I don't want to like rub my family in your face.
Sure.
I don't want to like show up. And it was Tolga, actually, who a lot of people know, Tolga Erkin, said like, we're already sad. Invite us over for dinner. Like,
right, please.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. So
real quick to Brian. Brian is another blast from the past. Like right after I got in trouble and before I went to prison, he and I hung out quite a bit. So like it's really cool. Like I just got on Facebook and reconnected with all these people. So shout out to Brian. Brian, if you want in the group, I know that you're on Facebook. If you want to DM me in Messenger, your email address, and I'll make sure that James gets it.
Heck yeah. It'd be cool to have you in. I have to say, my favorite thing. So if anyone's started a community, like, you have to start it. Like half the channels are empty. There's nothing in them. So you have to go and you have to post things and you have to try to get excitement.
Yep.
One of my happiest things now is like, I'll get a notification from the group and it's not a chat I started. Like it's somebody else. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, like it's starting to work. People are talking to each other. Like, this is so cool. But just sitting and watching the interactions, which they're not, it's not a million. It's 9, 10 per day, has been so cool.
Yeah. Have you gotten any traction in the dad joke group yet? I know you had posted something about that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. And I actually invited Britt Crawford to it so he could school us all, but he hasn't yet started commenting in there. But this Friday, I have to do my research. I was going to look up like the history of dad jokes and like what makes a dad joke a dad joke. I'm going to have him on and record a podcast with him. And dad jokes is the topic because we've done some seriously heavy stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got to do something lighter. Like,
sure. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Everyone, it's really sad. I have this thing and it's not polished yet, so I don't know how to share it. But if I'm going to be quoted for one thing before I die, it'd be, I feel like real men cry and real men get angry. And men who only do one or the other are suspicious to me. Like if you're a dude and you cry all the time, but you're not, like, I don't see the passion. I only see it one way. Like that makes me nervous. And if you're one who does neither, that also like isn't right. I feel like real men, you're supposed to be passionate. You're supposed to. So anyway, every episode of this podcast I've recorded so far, like I've almost bawled my eyes out. It's so bad. It's tough. It's really heavy stuff. We've done miscarriage, and like I said, people who've lost children, and it's been tough. But I feel like it's important work.
Yeah, it definitely is, especially, and this is like one of my pet peeves is, if you look at it in society, they're waging a war on being a man and what it means to be a man. Like if you're any kind of a man at all, they throw it out as toxic masculinity and all that. And it pisses me off because this is how a man is supposed to be, like not angry all the time and bitter and demeaning women, but strong and a leader and, the head of his family and a dad to his kids and a provider for his wife and all this kind of stuff. And society is just like trying to squash that down. So to have guys come out and actually do something like this and support other guys is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, I hope, and what I like is I told my wife I wanted to start it and she's like, I don't know. Cause she's seen a lot of these like Instagram influencer dads, that just talk about how awesome they are. And it took me a while to convince her, like, that's not what this is. Like I'm talking to other people who've had, I'm not asserting my opinion that I'm good at anything. It's just a group of guys and I want to have, real conversations about real things. And after she heard the first couple, because we did one raising a child with autism, I think she heard part of that and was like, like, oh, this is real stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is real stuff, like really uncomfortable. And I will say, I had one lady comment who was very upset because she felt I was devaluing single mothers, which I think was a reflection because I was talking about the importance of having a father and her child didn't have a father in the home. And it kind of hurt. I get that. And it gave me a good chance to reach out. And like, we actually had like a decent civil, but also like really empathetic exchange in comments on LinkedIn, which is rare. But it was so cool. She came back and was like, thank you, like for explaining that. I understand. And then I was able to help connect her to like a single moms group. Like I would love for someone to make a single moms group. I'm not the right person to do it. But somebody is better suited. So it's just, everything has been positive. Everything has been really good. So
that's awesome, man. How many people you have in your community now?
I have to look right now. It's like 37. And I'm kind of like, I'm kind of freaked out because I'm like, if it gets too big, like, will it lose a personal feeling? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There's a sweet spot, but I want it to be available for the people who need it. And I was looking at different communities forever. but I like, Slack, people can DM each other, and it doesn't have to, I don't have to run the show, right? I just want to be a part of it.
Right. No, for sure. So tell us a little more about the podcast. Like you mentioned, you had somebody on there that dad to an autistic kid. If you ever feel like revisiting that topic, I have a friend. He's on LinkedIn too. His name's Aaron Mangum. He's from the Dallas area, and he has a son that is severely autistic. He's nonverbal, and he's been on my show and talked about this. So this isn't anything that I'm not, that hadn't been put out there. And he's a single dad, and I don't know what the story is with him and the mother. Like I didn't get into all that, but he's a single dad raising an autistic kid that cannot communicate with him.
Yeah.
If you ever want to revisit that, yeah, man, he'd be a good guest.
Yeah. I'm looking at so far episode list. We had, we have 2 single fathers. So one of them was divorced. One of them, his wife passed away, and that was Tolga. And he also went over the importance of like setting up a living will, like a trust. Mm-hmm. It was amazing because his wife only passed away, like 6 months ago or less, 5 months ago.
Oh wow.
So he was holding it together better than me, but he was going over like, these are all the things that we did. Like, you need to have a living will. You need to have this. You need to have that. Here's what we didn't do and how it burned us. Like they didn't talk about end of life plans because they wanted to stay positive. But then you're left with this question of like, is this what my partner would have wanted? Like I don't know, because we didn't talk about it, and that matters.
Right.
So he brought up the idea of, number 1, do the trust, do the will, do all that. Number 2, he's like, go on a date. Like we talked about, have a date night now when there's no immediate threat of like anyone passing away, and talk about end of life plans, because you can do it like with a smile. It can be like kind of a funny, like it's a weird date, but yet like then it's done, So we did that. Do you know Nate Larkin? Have you heard of the Samson Society?
No.
He helped us overcoming addiction. He was a pastor who fell into pornography addiction, and now he spins up these small groups over Zoom, and it's just guys helping guys. He's like, not accountability partners. It's not a 12-step program. Right. He went through his process on addiction. We did, again, losing a child, how to help your family get through that. We did how to invest in your kids' lives. We've had people who've grown up without fathers. We've had people who, are the single fathers. We've had how to support your wife through a miscarriage. We've been through 3, and I'm still not good at it. So we had Michelle Hironaka, who a lot of people know. So she came on because she's expecting, right? So it was kind of a perfect time where we can be happy, but also reflect on hard times. And she was just incredible. So
she is incredible, dude. Like she did the copy for my website almost a year ago, and it wasn't too long after she had her miscarriage, and we got to talk about it a little bit, and just she's amazing. And like I didn't even bring it up by accident. Like she brought it up or something. I was like, oh crap, I forgot about that. And I asked her a question, and I was like, you know what, if you don't want to dig into that, like that's fine. I'm not trying to get off. And she was like really open about it and talked. It was amazing. So I'm glad she was on the show.
You would get this because your mom was midwife. I didn't know it was a guy. Like the first time I went through a miscarriage, it depends on how far along you are, but even as early as like 6 or 8 weeks. And sorry, like nobody tuned in this Nobody tuned into this live for this, but they're getting it. Yeah. If you have a miscarriage at like 8 weeks, you like have a baby. Like it's like like the process of you having. I was sucker punched. I had no idea that that's what happens. Like I thought, because it's like, oh, you miscarried. Oh, bummer. Like it is sadness, whatever. But then it's like a week later, like the aftershock is worse than the earthquake. Like that's when the aftershock hits, and it's like, it's intense. I won't go into it as much as we did in the podcast. But what was interesting about having Michelle on is she had the perspective of like, my body is a failure. Like I am a failure. Like, and it never occurred to me that like women, and I'm stereotyping, but from her words, women take it on themselves. Like I am a failure, not like this happened, but like my body doesn't work. And it was like, holy crap, but I mean, even stuff that, again, I've been through 3 of these, but had no idea that like that's what's going on in your head, so it enables me as a dad, as a husband, to be better in working with my, and dealing, hopefully we won't have another miscarriage, but either way, in understanding how to deal with that kind of stuff, because I think a lot of people are just unprepared.
Yeah, for sure. My mom had a miscarriage too, and it was pretty rough. Like it took her a little while to come back from it. I was really young, so I don't remember a whole lot about it. I was maybe 9 or 10. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, I think it's to get it. I think I won't get into it too much, but it's been very interesting to like put fatherhood under a microscope, I've been reading more on it, because that was part of my intention of creating this, is like I want to be more intentional and I want to be better. And so one way to do it is to create something where like I have to be, so I have to read more about it, to think more about it. And I've caught things like passive aggressivism that I have, that I'm working through, and like being more direct, and like the impacts it has when you're not. And I mean, to me, it's been amazingly, if nobody else benefits at all, it's been amazing for me. But I think it's benefits other people really cool, too, to like be in the group and things, because it just makes you more sensitive to all those issues. And like I said, being the biggest, loudest person in the room, you can cause a lot of damage if you're in a bad room, in a bad mood, or if you are, not acting directly, or, taking the lead when you should be taking the lead in the right way. Right. So,
for sure. Yeah. I love it, man. So what, like, who do you have coming up? Like, what kind of topics you have coming up on the podcast? You don't have to tell us any guests yet if you don't want to, but like, what kind of topics?
No, it's interesting, because I already mentioned the dad jokes one. That one's going to be good.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
What's interesting to me is I'm kind of pivoting. So I don't know if this is helpful to anybody or not. I was trying to set up like specific talks around specific topics, and I had a lot of guys reach out and are like, let's just chat. And I'm like, I don't want to just chat. Like, it has to be a topic. What's the topic going to be? And I was like trying to build it very topically. But after having a few of these guys on, like, it actually turned out better, I think, than when I had a topic. Because when I have a topic, it's like I have my list of questions. And I want to stick to my list of questions. I want to make sure we run down my list of questions. I have like too many questions. We're out of time. When it's talking, it's like it doesn't take long to get really deep. And part of what I wanted to do is like, I have questions, and I've wanted to ask other guys questions, and people I've looked up to and people I've respected. But then the value ends there. If I don't record it, it's just I learned something nobody else does. So part of that is like, I wanted to have these other people on so we could have deeper conversation I could record. So the one that I'm really excited to have, but the dad that I want to have on it is like anti everything social media, which is like probably the best thing. It's probably the reason why I look up to him. One of the reasons.
Right.
He has 8 kids, and he has 5 girls, and they are, every one of them, amazing. So when my wife was pregnant the first time, and again, hospital runs and all that, and I had to work, I got 2 of his girls because they were homeschooled. One of them would babysit Monday and Wednesday, and one of them would do Tuesday and Thursday, so that I could work. They're absolutely amazing, wonderful. And then now their younger sisters babysit for us. So I've begged that dad to come on and do a how to raise daughters. Because I'm like, they're all like, they're starting to open their own businesses. Some of them are married and like going for law degrees and all this stuff. I'm like, whatever you did, I need to do that.
Right.
So yeah, but we're also looking at that some people are just, hobby. What do you do? How do you do hobbies? How do you approach hobbies? How do you do outdoor stuff? How do you, like, where do you look for that inspiration? And since I've been talking to people, it's so silly, but it's like, I'm going to buy a boat. I bought a truck last year. I'm like, I'm going to get a boat, like not a boat, like a big boat, but like just a crappy, like $150 off Craigslist metal boat. It'll probably leak. We're going to go sit in the lake, me and my son, with fishing poles. I don't even know if we'll put them in the water, like just so we can talk. But it's like, It's really made me value slowing down and doing that stuff.
And that is exactly the kind of boat that I have. Like, that's the boat me and my buddies fish out of. It's one of those little boats. It's not for sale.
Everyone's selling boats with motors. I'm like, I don't want the motor. Like, the whole
you
point
don't
is
even
to
want
be
the motor?
No,
really?
The whole point is to be like stuck in the middle of the water, because then you have to talk to each other. I'm not going in like Lake Michigan or something. I'm going in smaller Smaller inland lake.
I was going to say, boy, if you're going to Lake Michigan, you're going to want that motor.
Yeah, no. And I've been in Lake Michigan on a boat with a very scary, shoddy motor. So yeah.
Going back to what you said for a minute about unscripted, going kind of off unscripted on your podcast. That's exactly the way I do all my live streams, because like tonight, and you had a little bit of trouble getting in. We didn't have time to talk about anything beforehand. And I was like, look, bro, we're just going to talk. And you were like, cool. And we've kind of gotten into a few little deep subjects here. And I just love it. Like, I love doing it like that, because you don't know where it's going to go. If you have something you want to hit on, you can write a note about it or whatever, and make sure you kind of segue into it. But just taking that conversation and just letting it flow naturally and organically and getting deep, to me, like some of the best conversations I've ever had.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And your questions can throw you off of where you want to talk. Mine, I know it sounds silly, but like the pressure comes in like having a blog to support the podcast. So you want to make sure you have stuff that touches big, important topics. And I think, we did. There's some topics that I want to talk about that I just haven't found the right person for. So like, I want to talk about passive aggressivism, but I don't. Some people have offered, but I'm like, I don't think I just want anybody to talk about passive aggressivism. Like, I'd rather, not that a degree means everything, but I'd rather somebody who like will give advice that's useful, not like advice that could potentially lead someone the wrong way. Like, you don't want to justify somebody who's being angry just to be angry, like you don't want to be like, oh, it's okay to be angry as a guy. Like if someone's abusing their family, punching holes in the wall, right? But you do want to say that to somebody who's like overly passive. And, like I've seen this myself, you're overly passive and then your wife is irritated because she's wanting you to help, but you're being way too passive. So that's where I've struggled. I had Christian Vincenu is who I had, who him around, who talked about autism, and he has ADHD. And it was a hilarious conversation because I think that was my longest episode yet. He was like, stop me if I just keep talking. But I'm like, that's so hard to do. Like, yes. So between him and me, we like ran that sucker to an hour 20. But I gave a pre-release unedited copy of it to a family who was dealing with a kid with autism. And his conversations on like, basically how I understand it now, because I didn't before was, autism is mainly about overstimulation. And different things happen when kids get overstimulated. So it's about letting them control the level of stimuli around them. It's about letting them be comfortable in the things that they do and kind of working with it. He had a great analogy of like, you don't get angry at blind people because they can't see. So we shouldn't get irritated, angry at autistic children because we can't see what they are feeling. So like, it was really good. It was really, really good. And helpful to kind of put it in perspective. I'm sure I'm oversimplifying, but
no, I like that explanation. That makes a whole lot of sense, actually. Aside from, I think you mentioned passive aggressivism, what is another topic that you most want to talk about but can't find someone for?
Yeah, some of these are like, I need to vet people. So like raising daughters, like successfully raising daughters, like I don't want to just have anybody on. So that's why like I'm specifically trying to get that guy. I wanted passive aggressive. I would like something on like the right kind of anger. But again, you got to find the right person, because it's like there are some things when we see injustice in the world, we should be angry. And that's something that kind of like, when I hear that, I don't know if it's like guilt is the right way to say it, but like I feel bad when I'm not angry. When things don't make me angry like they should, or when I don't let them affect me like they should. When I know that I should, because one thing is everything you do, you're demonstrating for your children. So it's like you don't want to show them anger, but you want to show them standing up for what's right. And sometimes standing up for what's right is being direct, right? And it's so anyway, so I would say some of the psychological stuff that guys suffer with is what I wanted to talk about. I was lucky that Nate Larkin was willing to talk to me about addiction. He has a long history with addiction, unfortunately. And that was really good. Yeah, Dan, if you, because you keep commenting in, if you want, drop me your email on LinkedIn, just DM me your email or connect or whatever. I'll throw you right in the group and then we can chat about it too. But yeah, some of that stuff is just hard because it's like I don't just want to talk about anything. I want to vet people. And then some on the religious front too, they'll talk about some spiritual stuff, and I'm like, I kind of want to vet that a little bit to make sure we're not like getting a little nuts.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Some people have like sent me here's my spirit guide and here's whatever, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
So anyway,
for sure. So like, where do you see, like, I had a thought, and it was probably like just something rolling around in my head. Like, if your community continues to grow, obviously it would be a lot for one person to like manage it and make sure they're there all the, not all the time, but popping in with, enough content to make sure it's relevant and being able to talk to the guys or whatever. Do you ever foresee like you working with someone or 2 or 3 people and just kind of, or is this going to be like a solo project? No, I'm not trying to get hired. I'm not a dad, so I don't even want to even act like I have any expertise in that. Being the oldest of 7 gave me a little bit of expertise in it.
I was going to say, you've done your service.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
So like, what is the vision for that?
It's changed.
You're still trying to figure it out.
Well, I had a more clear vision, and I don't know if I'd say I have a big heart, but it kind of fell apart. The expectation was always that the blog is going to be up and the podcast will be launched around March, April, and that's because of I have some travel that I have to do, and then website wasn't going to be able to get done until then, so I was kind of holding things up till then. The intent originally for the community was to do a paid community. Well, why paid? Well, because that would help me put up a gate to make sure that we only have the right kind of folks there. It would make sure that we have motivated folks there. It would also help cover the expense of just the podcast stuff, right? Because I have the software run. I mean, that's not free. I'm already paying for it, even though it's not launched yet. To help cover the cost of that stuff. And then it would give me more leeway to do things. Like, I would love to have meetups. I would love to do things. And so at this point, I was talking to these single dads who said they were all, experiencing loneliness, and it's hard to find good relationships, and people are asking for it. And I'm like, you know what, forget it. And also, like, setting up the payment thing was a nightmare. I'm like, forget it. We're just going to make it live. So we made it live and made it free. Anyone can join it. Any dads who want to join the group can join the group. That does put a damper on like some of the things that I'd want to do. And I wanted to find a good charity for single fathers or even, a slush fund that could be given to single fathers as needs arise and things within the group. So that kind of puts a hamper on that, because it's, now it's just open and there's no cost to anything other than what I'm paying. But I don't know. In the future, maybe we can get some dadvertisers. I don't know. There's a guy who has an app. I feel bad because I haven't announced it yet, so here can be my announcement. But he has an app that's like a daily planner that he's working on getting some attention for. That's been launched and all that stuff. And so he said he'd give the first 100 people who signed up in the community. I was like, bro, there's only 37. But he said he would give the first 100 guys like free for life, and then start charging after that. And I mean, there was no incentive to me, but I'm like, this is kind of cool, because the planner app I was using like got discontinued. So like, awesome. But anyway, who knows? I'm going for, thank you, Gabe, for laughing at my dadvertiser's comment. So we will, so I don't know. Who knows what the future holds, but it's one of those where like, I'm trusting that what's most important to me is we create the community where guys can get what they need, and then everything else will take care of itself after that. So
yeah, for sure. I love it, man. I absolutely love it. What else, man? Anything else you want to tell us about it, or tell us about the podcast, or anything else you got going on?
Anything else I have going on? No, I just, like I said, it's been so awesome to me to see and to like have a group that's working on building each other up. So the way we have it set up, there's a being a good dad section, there's a being a good husband section, obviously introductions in general and random, also a struggle section. And it's not that any of us are good at helping people through struggles. That's not the point. We're not therapists and all that, but somebody brought up, we should have a place where you can just talk about if you're struggling with something. Yeah. I'm like, oh man. So so it's cool. I'm looking at, in the being a good dad, someone is like, they have a 3-year-old boy who's almost 4, who's prone to anger and outbursts and can be really defiant. And he said we came across a podcast on declarative language, which is focusing on like moving out of a command tone of voice into a partner tone of voice. And so it was cool. I'm like, what the heck is that? Because I've never heard of that.
Right.
And he said it's basically like, if you have a pull-up on and the kid's not supposed to have a pull-up on, instead of saying take your pull-up off, say notice you still have your pull-up on, and then like give the kid time and space to make a decision. And it's funny because like I read that and I'm like, that sounds passive aggressive to me. You know what I mean though? Like, oh, I see you still have your pull-up on. Like,
right.
But anyway, it's things like that. I posted something in LinkedIn that I have business trips coming up from time to time, and it's like, what things can I do to help make my wife's life easier, because I'm going to be gone for longer than a few nights. And so people gave really good ideas. She's not watching this, which is cool, but people gave really good ideas. So I bought a bunch of like really brightly colored sticky notes. That was a recommendation from somebody, so I can like leave her little notes around the house. And what's funny is the guy's like, I did it for my wife, but I didn't do like bright sticky notes. And like, you will be surprised at how obvious a note is, and they miss it. So he's like, make it really obvious, like stick them everywhere. So I got I don't have them in here, but I got a whole pack of like little sticky notes, and I'm gonna like write them all up ahead of time and stick them on like parchment paper, so that I can still peel them back off. Then I'll stick them all over the house. I'm leaving like in an afternoon, so I got to figure out, do I do this the night before or the morning of? And then other people brought up having like DoorDash drop off flowers, which would have been cool if DoorDash came out to where I live, but I live in the country too, so they don't.
DoorDash, what's DoorDash?
Yeah, people brought up like, spa things for when you get back, like a gift certificate for spas. It's just cool, because I feel like the other part about being a good dad is being a good husband, because that's the foundation, I believe, of
for sure,
the marriage and family. So having a place where, like, I used to work and we had the water cooler. Like, we did have the water cooler where like everyone went and complained about their wives every day. It's just part of what happened. Oh yeah. In my last, not my last job, but several jobs ago, it was like part of the morning routine. You show up, everyone complains about whatever their wife did last night. And if you're the one who's like, no, like my wife is awesome. Like even if she doesn't cook dinner, like I still love her and I'm so happy that she's in our family. So like people like recoil at that, like that's weird. So to have a place where you can just talk about, my wife is awesome, and how can I, in what ways can I bless my wife or do good things for my wife?
Yes.
It's weird, but I mean, it's almost weird, like us talking about it and however many people listening, but it's weird to hear a guy say, I totally love my wife, even if she didn't cook dinner, but she is like an amazing cook. Even if she didn't, I would still love my wife, and I'm looking for ways to bless her. Like, no, who says that? Nobody says that, but it's like this group, people say that.
And what kind of example are you setting for your kids when you do that?
Oh yeah.
You're teaching them how to be a good husband.
Yep. And you're teaching your daughters what to expect.
Exactly.
Out of it. That's the one that's more important to me, because I've been talking to other people about, one of the conversations was, as your kids move, so my kids aren't like in college yet. When your kids get in college, like that's terrifying to me, just because they're, like somebody said their high school years, everyone complains about high school years. He's like, I would take high school years 1,000,000 times, because at least I knew where they were at night, like, and that does mean something. Yes. So that's been another conversation. Yeah. And like, how do you prepare? Because it's like, I know my daughter is going to bring home a guy someday, and it is the reason why I own firearms and property and a big truck.
Come on.
And it's the reason I work out in the morning, because I need to.
It's the reason there's a backhoe back there.
There it is. I've already dug the hole. Yeah. So I I want to learn, because what do I do now, so that when she brings somebody home, I'm like, I'm okay with that. Like, you're never going to be like, woo, but at least, like, okay, this is good.
Tyler Graham, I don't know if you know Tyler, if you're connected to Tyler, he did a post yesterday or maybe Friday, I don't remember, about how him and his brother dress up, full suit, get the daughters dressed up, and they take them out on a date. They open the door for them. They take them to a fancy restaurant, wine them and not wine them because they're kids, but dine them and just show them what it's like. This is what you do. Like, you're not going to expect anything less whenever you get older, because daddy has already set the standard for what to expect.
Yeah, I tried to do a daddy-daughter dance, so sometimes schools do daddy-daughter dances, but it's kind of hard to find a daddy-daughter dance. There are places by us that do like daddy-daughter concerts, which I think is just stupid. They do like a dinner and then like a band plays while you're eating, so you can't talk and you're just sitting next to each other at a table with like 50 other people. It's really anyway. So we did a daddy-daughter date I do with my brothers-in-law. I have two brothers-in-law and they all have daughters, and I took my oldest daughter. And we did one of those wine and canvas places. So again, no wine, just canvas. But we did they do, I forget what they call it, something fancy, but it's dump painting. Like you put layers of paint in a cup and then you have a substrate, which for us was like a heart, it's not really wood, it's like cardboard. And you flip the cup over on it, and then when you like move it around and lift it up, it like makes this like swirl pattern as the paint pours off the sides and stuff. So we did that, like I said, with my brother-in-laws and their daughter, and then took them out to eat. And so we're trying to schedule the next one or see what we can do next. But it's
that's
like
really cool. Yeah.
Can we do? Yeah. But it's like I don't know how. I think my wife gave me that idea, but it's like that's a good idea. Like for a activity with the daughters, to do one of those painting classes and just have fun with paint and laugh at each other. So that's the point. I want a group where you can talk about that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, with single fathers, it breaks my heart that they feel alone. And it's like, I feel partly to blame for that. We do. Here's another topic: how to deal with guilt as a father. We did talk about it a little bit. But I feel kind of bad for that too, because again, I've had fathers who, like single fathers who I know, who I'm like afraid to invite over because I don't want to make them feel bad. Like, what do you talk about? So, I mean, some of this too is like, how do you talk to, I talked to the guy who lost a kid. How do you talk to someone who just lost a child? What on earth do you say?
Right.
And his biggest point, which was great. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Because you may be going to say what I was going to say.
Well, his biggest point is like, I don't give a crap about lasagna, because everyone brings you food and they're like, here's your food. And then they're like out the door before you can like, he's like, screw the food. Like, we need people. We need to feel normal. We need people over. He's like, it doesn't matter if you don't say anything. Ask about football. He's like, it doesn't, but after you lose a child, like you just have this emptiness you just want to fill with people, and people are like afraid, so they leave. And it was the same thing with single fathers. Like I said, I feel bad inviting them over. What do you talk about? It's kind of like when you go and we see somebody at a funeral and you're like, how's it going? Oh, like the first thing out of your mouth to someone who just lost someone is like, how's it going? You're like, oh frick,
never mind.
I know. But yeah, we did the same thing with autism too. What do you say to a child who has autism? Because they hate, I shouldn't say hate. Christian said the wrong thing to do is, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, nobody wants to hear, oh, I'm sorry. It's my kid and all this stuff. And so I'm like, well, you don't say congratulations. Like, what do you say?
Yeah.
But he brought up a good point too, that especially it's true with every child, especially autistic children. They love something. There's something that they like. There's something they really enjoy doing. And the difference is with, kids who are neurotypical. Right now my son is drones. And the son is drones. He has like 3 drones now, and everything is drones and all that. One of my other sons, it's basketball. One of my other sons, it's drawing superheroes. So everyone has something. So he's like, just ask like you would ask anybody else. Like, what's your kid into? And for a kid who's autistic, it might be, I had a cousin who's autistic. It was cars. He knew everything about every car, every make and model. I would tell him I had a F-150. It was, what engine you got in it? What year is it? And at like 9 years old, he's like, oh, you got the 5-liter?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, part of this is like the weird, awkward questions that we don't know how to ask people.
Yeah.
And asking those and then learning from them. So I said, next time we have somebody who, hopefully it won't be for a long time, who have a loss in their family, I'm like, I'm driving the lasagna over. Like, we're all going over. Like, because he said, usually it's, you send the wife goes and drops off and then leaves, and you're just by yourself again. So anyway, it's been good. I'm already like tearing up over here.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And I was going to say kind of the same thing is, a lot of times when somebody's going through something, they may not necessarily want to talk about what is going on. They might, but they're just as happy to be talking about football or, the weather or anything, as long as somebody is there just so they're not alone with their thoughts.
Yeah.
And if it leads into them talking about the situation, then that's fine, but just be there.
Yeah. But this goes into the passiveness. It is so easy to send your wife with the lasagna. So easy.
For sure.
So easy to mail a gift card or something.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean, part of it was funny because I'm looking for a URL that's open and my wife's like, full contact fathers. That's awful. And I'm like, it kind of is, but it encompasses like everything I want. I'm just tired of sitting on the sidelines. And it's like, I want to be like ingrained with everything. I want to be there. I want to be, you know, a big part of my kids' lives, obviously, and not just sit and let life happen, like in general, right? Too. So I'm like, it is kind of the embodiment of what I want. So that's how it kind of ended up. But
cool, man. I absolutely love it. Like, I absolutely love it. Like, you know, I come from a big family. I come from a Christian home. So this kind of stuff is like, I love it. Even though I'm not a dad, like, I absolutely love it. It's very, very much needed. Because guys feel alone, man. Like we feel sometimes, you know, we're supposed to suppress our emotions and supposed to not let it out and all this kind of stuff. But it doesn't mean it's not there. It's not healthy to suppress it. You know, you need somewhere safe where you can just vent or talk or whatever, have support. So
the best thing I heard, man, and it's true, is my wife will make fun of me because I'll talk to another guy for a half hour and know nothing about him at the end. Like that. I mean, it's guy talk, right? Because you're like, oh, hey, what do you do? And blah, blah. And then by the time you're done, you're like, you know, my wife will be like, what'd you talk about? Like, what's his wife's name? What are their kids? Does he have a family? Where's he live? And I'm like, I don't know. Because we talked about nothing, right? So it was actually, it is though, right? Because you're like, you leave and you're like, I don't even know that guy's name. Like we talked for a half hour. I don't even know. But he has a truck. Like I'll know that much.
Right, exactly.
So there's actually a pastor, Vody Balcom. Do you know Vody? He's a good one. He was talking about like name origins. So like, you know, the last name Cooper was a barrel maker. Like a Cooper was a barrel maker. And he's like, you look at the people's last names and Smith and I can't remember. Like Smith was a blacksmith and Baker as the last name. You were a baker. So he's like, you look at kind of last names weren't common, right? You were like Jim from Goebbels, Chris from Tallahassee. Like you were just, you know, name and location, first name, location. So then when it came time and like last names became more prevalent, there were three main flavors. I forgot one. One of them is, you know, the Cooper, the baker, the candlestick maker. The other one, there you go. The Booker, there is Booker. You could do Booker. But the other one he said is like Jameson, you know, James' son. So you identified yourself as your name and part of your family. And he's like, what's happened now in society, though, too, is men identify with jobs. So the question that we ask, this is my challenge I've been working with myself. Like, how do I do this and not be creepy? We meet other guys and we go, what do you do? And then we use that as our like hierarchy and structure to like rank each other and like, oh, you do this, I do this, I'm an engineer, you're at this, or I'm a manager. How do you pivot
groceries
that?
at the Walmart? I mean, you know.
Yeah. Well, how do you pivot that into like, tell me about your family?
Yeah.
And the weird thing that's awkward is like someone may have lost their wife a month ago, but it's like, you know what? Maybe you need a hug. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But in the same sense, it, you know, sometimes it's just awkward though. Somebody's like, oh, I don't, you know, I'm divorced and my wife has the kids.
Yeah.
You can totally step in something, but should we really design our lives to not step in anything?
No.
So that's my challenge now, and my challenge to some of the guys in the group and stuff is like, how do you introduce each other and be like, tell me about your family? But it's so weird because people aren't used to hearing it. I know right? You are, but that's the point. Like that's how the relationships come in, you know?
Yeah.
You ask that. So that's my challenge now is like when I meet somebody else and I talk to my wife afterwards, I don't want to be like, I got no friggin' clue who that is, what he does, you know, anything about him. I'd rather walk away with, you know, something more meaningfully because you'll walk out with a relationship after that instead of just you know, he's a plumber. His name's Jeff. He's got a truck.
Right. He's a plumber and he stepped all the way in it today.
Oh my gosh.
Because he had to.
And then he tracked it through the house. Yeah.
Cool, man. All right. So if y'all want to be a part of the support group, shoot James a DM. If you're on Facebook and you want to, shoot me a DM in Messenger or whatever, and I'll make sure it gets over to him. The website's not up yet, you said?
The website's up, and it's just to sign up for the newsletter. Okay. So you can. I haven't sent one. I didn't send one last week, and I probably won't this week because I don't want to spam people if I don't have anything important to say. But I've shared a few things, and then it's been updates as like the forum is built, and then as it gets open and stuff like that. So yeah.
Fullcontactfathers.com.
Yep.
Okay. Fullcontactfathers.com if you want to sign up for the newsletter. Sweet. What else, man? Anything else you want to leave us with closing words of wisdom, wit, or tomfoolery?
I didn't prepare anything. Ooh, I have a good quote, and it's my favorite quote. No, we're gonna do it. It's my favorite quote, and it helped inspire me to make the group because my kids are about this age. It was, I always mess it up. Moms turn babies into boys. Fathers turn boys into men.
I say that again. Moms turn babies.
Don't make me say that again. It's hard enough to say it the first time. Everyone makes fun of me because then they start singing boys to men, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
I don't know. Hang on. Yeah,
mothers turn babies into boys. Men, fathers turn boys into men.
Yes.
And I think the difference is, the kid falls off his bike and mom's like, "How are you okay? Are you okay, honey?" And stuff. But if that continues until you become, until you get released to now you have your first job, like that ain't gonna fly. So you need that, like, get up, wipe it off. You'll be all right.
Yeah, you need a little bit of that. You're good. Yep, I know it hurts. You're all right.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's been inspiring me lately. It's like if I fail, I'm failing my kids. Because they need me. Like they need me to be on my game so that they can be successful.
Yeah.
But it feels weird to be like, get up. Like, and that's supposed to help your kid. But I mean, it is. That's the tricky part. That's the nuance of all this, right? Is you can't be heartless, but you need to, like, it's a difference of, sorry, and I'll stop, I promise. But your kid goes outside without a coat and it's freezing, and my wife will not let them walk out the door. They're going to be cold. They're going to be cold. I'm like, they're fighting you. Let them go. I'll bring a coat. You know what I mean? Like, I'll bring the coat. I'll throw it in the van. That's fine. And in 5 minutes, they're going to be like, I need a coat. And you're like, you did. And you should have listened. So the kindness is I do bring the coat.
Yes.
But the fatherhood part is like, yes. Yeah, but the fatherhood part is like, you're going out there. Yes. Have fun.
So, okay. You want to go out without your coat? Go. You'll be back in a minute.
Have fun. It's prodigal son, man. When you're here, I got the coat.
Yeah, for real. Well, James, this has been awesome, dude. Like this, it doesn't even feel like we've been talking for an hour. So this is, that's how you know it's a good show, is whenever you look up and you're like, holy crap, you're already 15 minutes over time. Which is fine. Like, it's fine. I usually try and cut it off at 45, but if the conversation is going really good, then we just keep rolling with it.
No.
It was a good deal. It was a good thing.
Awesome.
Next week I have Amber Williams. And I have no idea what we're going to be talking about.
Unscripted.
Unscripted, yeah, for sure. So anyway, I have Amber Williams on next week. Thank y'all so much for joining me. If you were on Facebook, like I said, just shoot me a DM and I'll make sure James gets your email if you want to join the support group, or go over to fullcontactfathers.com to sign up for the newsletter. James, thank you again so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, we'll see y'all later.
See you.